Okay everyone, we're moving on to fractions. This is it, our last formal time talking about fractions in high school math. I mean, there'll be lots of fractions, but this will be the last time that I go through how to multiply, divide, add, subtract fractions. After this year, we'll kind of expect you know how to do it. If not, of course, rewatch the video or come and see me. So we're going to start with multiplying fractions here. I got 3 important points for you. The first point is, do not get common denominators. You don't need to. If you have common denominators, great. It's fine. But you don't have to waste time trying to find a common denominator. You know what I'm talking about? Like in this question right here, you have a denominator of 5 and a denominator of 11. And if you were adding or subtracting, you'd need to find the lowest common denominator, which is 55, and change them both into 55. And what you do at the bottom, you do that. No, we don't do any of that stuff with multiplying. You do not need common denominators. That's good news. Okay, here's something else. You must change mixed fractions to improper. A student once told me that in England or something, they call improper fractions top-heavy fractions, and I kind of like that because there's nothing actually improper about them. It makes them sound like there's something bad about them. I actually really prefer improper fractions than mixed fractions. So these are mixed fractions down here, right? Like 3 2/3, where you have a whole number and a fraction. And of course, we know how to switch those into improper fractions. Like if I was doing this one, I would go 3 times 3, which is 9, and add 2, which is 11, and then keep the denominator the same, sorry. So you'd get 11 over 3. That's something I'm kind of assuming you already know how to do. Okay, so you have to change your mixed fractions to improper. You can't multiply and divide mixed fractions. Well, you can, but it's very complicated, a lot of work. Don't want to do that. So the easiest way is to switch them to improper. And the third thing is, you can cross-cancel. I like to call it ninja slicing before you multiply, and I'll get to that in just a second. So let's get started. I have quite a few questions for us. The first one, 4/5 times 10/11. So the first thing it says is that you don't need common denominators. Great. The second thing is switch mixed into improper. Well, for all of them in the top row here, there's no improper, so we don't have to worry about that. So I can go straight to cross-canceling. Now, I don't actually like the term cross-cancel because the numbers don't have to be across from each other. You can cancel stuff as long as one number is in the numerator position and one number is in the denominator position. So for example, I'm just going to go all the way over here. You see this 28 and this 40? I could cancel those. I could divide them both by 4 and get 7 and 10. Now, those aren't cross-canceling because they're not across from each other. So I'm not saying ninja slicing is a much better term, but that's what I use instead. You're ninja slicing. Hiya, hiya. So which numbers, one in the top, one in the numerator, and one in the denominator, which numbers could you cancel here? You could cancel or ninja slice the 5 and the 10. What can you divide them both by? 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. And that's it. There's nothing else you can do. Can I cancel the 2 and the 4 and divide them both by 2? No, those are both numerators. You need to have one numerator and one denominator. This doesn't work. You're done. So now you're ready to multiply. You multiply straight across the top. 4 times 2, 8. You just multiply straight across the bottom. 1 times 11, 11. And if you have ninja sliced or cross-canceled properly, you'll never have to put it in lowest terms. But you should check just to make sure. This is in lowest terms. Okay, here's one. 3 different fractions. It looks, I'd have to do some pretty big numbers here. 7 times 9 is 63, and then times that by 5. Ooh, that's hard. 20 times 14 is 280, and then multiplied by 6. Oh, this question's terrible. It's not that bad if you're willing to cross-cancel or ninja slice. So, give me a number in the numerator and a number in the denominator you can divide by the same thing. How about the 7 and the 14? You can divide them both by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. And 14 divided by 7 is 2. See anything else? How about the 9 and 6? Divide them both by 3. 9 by 3 is 3. 6 by 3 is 2. And how about the 20 and the 5? Divide them both by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 20 divided by 5 is 4. Hey, now our numbers aren't so bad. 1 times 3 times 1. That's 3. 4 times 2 times 2. Well, 4 times 2 is 8. Times another 2 is 16. And that is in lowest terms because I did such a good job ninja slicing. Next, oh my gosh, we got negatives. Don't worry, how many negatives do you see? I see 1 here and I see 1 here. 2 negatives when you're multiplying make a positive. Great, our answer is going to be positive. We're in good shape. So I'm going to rewrite this question. I'm going to first of all write it without the negatives because I don't need them anymore. I've already figured out my answer is positive. So I have 28 over 40 as my first fraction. Now these are just in brackets. There's nothing between them. That means times, right? It's like multiply, multiply. Whoops, the dot's not in the right spot. So it's the first one. I'm going to use dots now. So 6. What? 6? Wouldn't it be better if I wrote that as a fraction? Sure, we can do that. 6 over 1. You can put any whole number over 1. So 6 over 1 times, let's just ignore the negative, 2 over 3. And now we're ready to ninja slice. So what could you do here? How about the 3 and the 6? I could divide them both by 3. So I would get 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. I could do the 2 and the 40. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 40 divided by 2 is 20. I could do the 2 and the 20. I know it's, already sitting there, there's 2, but now you could cancel that one. Divide it by 2 and 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, 20 divided by 2 is 10. Anything else you could do? Yeah, there is. You could do the 28 and the 10. Remember, as long as one number's on the top, one number's on the bottom, you can cancel. So I can still do 28 and 10, divide them both by 2. So 28 by 2 is 14, 10 by 2 is 5, and I think that's finally it, everything we can do. So we have 14 times 1 times 1, well that's 14, and we have, what on the bottom here, 5 times 1 times 1, which is 5. Now I'm totally okay if you leave that as your answer. You don't have to switch it to mixed fraction if you don't want to. If you do want to, how many times does 5 go into 14? 2 times. How much is left over? 4. Keep the denominator the same, 4/5. Either one of these is totally great with me. Okay, now these next ones, no negatives, which is nice. Oh yeah, remember that last one was positive. I should at least think about that. It's positive, so no need to put a negative on that one. This one has no negatives, but it is mixed. So what do we have to do? We got to switch it into improper. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11, so this one's 11 over 3 times. 1 times 5 is 5, plus 4 is 9, so it's 9 over 5. Okay, and we look to see if we can do any ninja slicing. One number on the top, one number on the bottom. Only ones we can do are the 3 and the 9. Divide them both by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And we can multiply. 11 times 3 is 33. 1 times 5 is 5. Again, great answer. I'm happy with that. Or, how many times does 5 go into 33? 6. That gets us up to 30. And there's 3 left over. So, this is good. Okay, in the next question there are negatives. I can see just the one negative right here. So if you only have one negative and you're multiplying, your answer is going to be negative. So we know our answer is going to be negative. Let's not forget that. Remind me, please, otherwise I'll probably forget. So this is mixed because I switched this one. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 1 is 25 over 3. Whoops, not the best 25 I ever wrote. Times, I'm going to ignore the negative. 9 over 10 is already, that's fine. It's not mixed, so that's fine. But this one is mixed. 1.5. 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3 over 2. And we're good to ninja slice. Well, look, I see a 3 and a 3. Why don't we do those? Those will both turn into 1, because you can divide them by 3. I see a 10 and a 25. You could divide both of those by 5. So that'll give you 5 up here. 25 by 5 is 5. And 10 divided by 5 is 2. How about the 2 and the 2? Can I cancel those? No, they're both denominators. One must be a numerator, one must be a denominator. I think that's it. We're good to go. 5 times 9 times 1 is 45. 1 times 2 is 4. And again, happy with this answer. If you like doing mixed, 4 goes into 45 11 times with 1 left over. Oh, phew, almost forgot. It's supposed to be negative. Slap a negative on here, slap a negative on there, and we have our answer. Okay, last one. There are, oh, this is tricky. If you count the negatives, you're going to go 1, 2, 3 and think it's negative, aren't you? Do you see what's wrong? This is actually squared. This first one here is actually squared. It's a tough question. And if it's squared, it means a negative times a negative. This is actually 2 negatives, 3, 4. Our answer is going to end up being positive. I'm going to write that up there, but I will also continue working with this. So let's do the squared part first, right? That's what we should do, exponents first. So remember what that means. That means negative 2.5. If it's squared, that means you're multiplying it by itself. And then we're also multiplying by negative 8. and you're also multiplying by negative 7 over 10. We're multiplying 4 things together here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives, and as I said, 4 negatives, even number, it's going to be positive. So let's just drop the negatives now. We don't need those anymore. Anything else we have to do before we multiply? Yeah, let's switch these into improper form. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 over 2. I'm going to use the dots again. This is exactly the same. It's also going to be 5 over 2. This is a whole number, the 8, so why don't we make it 8 over 1, and then the 7 over 10 is fine. And we ninja slice. So let's see what we can do here. We got a 5 and a 10. Doesn't matter which 5 you pick. I'll pick this one. Divide them both by 5. You get 1 and you get 2. You could cancel this 2 with this 8 and get 4 and 1. You could cancel this 2 with this 4 and get 1 and 2. And you could cancel this 2 with this 2 and get 1 and 1. I just kept dividing by 2 over and over and over. That's it. So what's left? Well, we have 1 times 5 times 1 times 7. So it's basically just 5 times 7, which is 35. And we have 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1. Oh, there's our answer, 35 over 1. You know how I'd love for you to write that if it's 35 over 1? Just write 35. And we already said it's positive, so we're done. Great, let's move on to division. Dividing fractions, I got some more important steps for you. 1. Don't need common denominators. Hey, that's familiar. 2. You must change mixed fractions to improper. Hey, that's familiar too. 3. Multiply by the reciprocal. Flip the second fraction. What? Remember this? Remember what a reciprocal is? Reciprocal is when you take a fraction like 2 over 3 and you flip it over and make it 3 over 2. And the way you divide is actually, we don't divide. We actually multiply and you flip the second fraction. Okay, I'm sure you remember that. And the fourth thing is, you can ninja slice, but don't do it until after you've done the actual flipping of the second fraction. Okay, so here we go. No negatives in this one. Don't need to find common denominators. We don't have mixed fractions, so we can just get right to it. We keep the first fraction the same, 3 over 4. We don't want to divide, we want to multiply, and we flip the second fraction, 8 over 7. And now it's a question just like on the other side of the page. We're ready to ninja slice here. 4 and 8 become 1 and 2 when you divide them both by 4. And if you multiply, you get 3 times 2 is 6, and 1 times 7 is 7, and you're done. Okay, we do have a negative in this one. It's a negative divided by positive. Only one negative means it's going to be negative. So I'm going to leave off the negative now. I'm going to keep the first one the same, just ignore the negative. So 10 over 12. I'm actually going to multiply, and I'm going to flip the second one. 6 over 5. And now I ninja slice. So the 10 and the 5 can divide them both by 5, and I get 1 and 2. The 6 and the 12 can divide them both by 6 and get 1 and 2. And the 2 and the 2 I could simplify, divide them both by 2, and I get 1 and 1. What? 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 times 1 is 1. I get 1 over 1, which is the same as 1. And wait a minute, it's negative, so actually my answer is negative 1. Oh boy, look at this thing. Alright, remember, this means divide right here. So basically what we have is negative 2 and 2/3 divided by negative 4. So 2 negatives first of all. 2 negatives make a positive, so that's fine. You can ignore the negatives. Better switch this one into an improper fraction. So 2 times 3 is 6, plus 2 is 8. We get 8 over 3. We're going to multiply. Now, the reciprocal of 4. How do we do that? Well, remember, how do you write 4 as a fraction? You go 4 over 1. So if you're doing the reciprocal, if you were flipping it, it would be 1 over 4. Okay, time for ninja slicing. 8 and 4, divide them both by 4. You get 2 and 1, and we're good to go. 2 times 1 is 2, 3 times 1 is 3. Finished, and it's positive, remember, so that's good. Okay, last row. They're both positive, so we don't have to worry about negatives. Don't need common denominators, but we do need to switch them into improper form. So 1 times 6 is 6, plus 5 is 11 over 6, divided by, I'm going to keep it division, okay? You could make it multiplying if you want, but then you're going to have to also remember to flip this one, and I find people often get that wrong. So I'm going to leave it as a division statement while I switch these to improper. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17 over 8. Now I can actually write the new question. It's going to be 11 over 6. I'm going to change it to a multiplication question and flip the second one. Okay, no mistakes were made because I was so careful. Ready for ninja slicing. The 6 and the 8 can both be divided by 2. You get 4 here, you get 3 here, and that's it, I'm afraid. You got some hard ones here. 11 times 4, well, that's not bad. That's 44. 3 times 17, not quite so easy. It's 51. And you're done. Oh my gosh, look at these things. They're getting seriously hard now. So we have a negative divided by, and then two fractions multiplied together. There's only one negative. This answer is definitely going to be negative. So why don't we do the bottom first? I think we're going to have to get that answer first. So I'm going to change this 3 1/3 into improper fraction. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10 over 3. And you're multiplying that by 5 over 6. And it's multiplication. Don't be flipping anything or anything. This is a multiplication question on the bottom. So we can ninja slice. So we can do the 10 and the 6. Divide them by 2, you get 5 and 3. You can't cancel anything else out because 5s are on the top, 3s are on the bottom. There's nothing that cancels out. So you end up getting 25, 5 times 5, and 9 on the bottom, 3 times 3. Now don't do this. This is a common mistake. People now go divided by 4. You know why that's wrong? Because it's not 25 over 9 divided by 4. It's 4 divided by 25 over 9. So let me do this. This equals 25 over 9. And now I have to do 4 divided by 25 over 9. Okay, let's make 4 a fraction. 4 over 1. And let's turn it into a multiplication question. 4 over 1 times, flip this, reciprocal, 9 over 25. And we're ready to ninja slice. And you know what? You can't ninja slice. That'll happen sometimes. Don't feel like you have to. If you can't do it, you can't do it. So we just multiply. 4 times 9 is 36. 1 times 25 is 25. And we're done. Want it in mixed? How many 25s go into 36? 1 with 11 left over. Done. Or are we? What was the sign of this one? It was negative. Make sure you don't forget. It'd be so sad to get it wrong after all that work. So negative and negative, either one of those are good. Okay, last one. Oh my goodness, we're going to divide and then square. So let's divide first. Just to speed it up, I'm going to change them into improper as we go. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 5 is 35 over 6. Divided by, I'm going to write it this way. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 over 2. And eventually we're going to square it. So let's change this into a multiplication question. It's going to become times 2 over 5. That's the reciprocal. And I can now ninja slice. 35 and 5 become 1 and 7 if I divide by 5. And 2 and 6 become 1 and 3 if I divide by 2. Multiply, you get 7 over 3. But remember, we're squaring. So what's that mean? That means 7 over 3 times 7 over 3. Can you ninja slice? No, you can't. So just go ahead and multiply. 7 times 7, 49. 3 times 3 is 9. And if you want to put it in mixed, how many 9s go into 49? 5. That gets us up to 45. You need 4 more to get up to 49. The denominator stays the same. Either one of those is good. Did we have any negatives in that question? No, there was no negatives. So I think that's it. So that was a lot of questions. Feel free to go back and look at any ones that gave you troubles. Otherwise, that is how you multiply and divide fractions. Next day, addition. Take care.